Right, over my shoulder here we've got another one, and for reference we're going to call this Shaun's build. A lot of thought has gone into this one. A lot of thought goes into all the builds that come through here, but the occasional one, there's like months of planning, and I mean like 6-7 months of planning just to make sure that we've got the right recipe. We started on one thing, then evolved to another thing, and it's ended up with what you see over my shoulder here. Let me take you through the car. So when I talk about detail, this is what I mean. So there was an idea of how the car should look with the colour and combinations. It came to us with the canopy already on, and this sort of, it's like a textured black, but this is what started the theme. So from that, we have had everything matched. So even though the snorkel, Patrol Doctor snorkel, comes painted from them or powder coated, we had it repainted to match that same textured black at the back. Again, flares is done in the same texture, and then the Razzler front bar too. So everything is matching. There's not 3 different blacks on this car. It's one of those cars where I don't know where to start, to be honest. Do we talk about the bar work? Do we talk about the chop? Do we talk about the electrical system, the supercharger and the power that's making? Look, I'll start in the engine bay, and then that will lead on to everything else, I reckon. Alright, you can kind of guess this is a burger with the works. So yes, 2300 Harrop supercharger, absolute bolt-on power. This is doing 322 kilowatts at the hubs, and part of the reason for that is the snorkel and a very free-flowing exhaust. Alright, let's start. I don't know if you can appreciate that on a GoPro mic, but there's smiles for like blocks. That sounds amazing. All right, engine bay. We'll work ourselves from passenger to driver side. ARB diff breathers. So that is front, rear diffs, transfer case. We've already talked about the Patrol Doctor snorkel. There are Land Cruiser 200 parts in this vehicle. There is an air cleaner in here from a Land Cruiser, and there's also coolant because Toyota coolant is red, and there's an interchiller. So essentially the air coming through here we want to cool down as much as possible. So we've got a pump and a top-up thing here. So the coolant goes down from an intercooler, that's that black thing there, around here, goes through the interchiller underneath in the supercharger to cool that down. So that's red. If someone rings us up that's having a supercharger fitted by us and it's leaking red coolant, we know it's from the supercharger. If it's leaking green coolant, we know it's from the radiator. So that's why we use 2 different coolants. Next, the battery system, and I guess this is like our flagship now, I suppose. We've got the dash battery top bracket and everything labelled up here. So amps and plugs, compressors, all the lighting is all sitting there nice. And then there's 2 massive cables coming off it, one to the winch. So yeah, we've got a carbon winch with the Sabre dummy thimble. And this other one that follows around here to the circuit breaker, that's a massive 0 gauge going to a second battery. I'll show you that. Alright, this is where it really starts to get cool. Behind the seats here, we could have put all this battery stuff in the canopy, but this is a canopy that can be removed, so you'd hate to take your canopy off and not have anywhere to have power. So we've put the power in here, DCS 100, and that's going through a Victron combiner. What's a combiner, you say? Well, a combiner links the two batteries together like a voltage sensitive relay. When it gets to 12.8 volts at the start battery, it'll isolate them. So that means if you're running the inverter will go down to like 10.4 volts or whatever, but you'll always leave 12.8 in the start battery, and that's just enough to start the car. It's about 16 amp hours. So out of the full, 180 amp hours of this car, what is it, 166 is usable, 100% usable for your inverters, your fridges, lighting, all of that sort of stuff. Having the protection of that Victron combiner means you will always be able to start the car. But just in case, say this battery at the back gets run dead flat, someone left the inverter on, we've put some other buttons in here. So here, you can see, if it lights up red, is an override. So what that does is connects the two batteries back together, and say if the front one was flat for whatever reason, I couldn't think of why, it might be just enough juice to start the car, or probably more likely, the back one's flat for running the fridge for a month, and all lithium batteries, they turn themselves off. To get them to wake up again, you need to give them a boot. Like a DC-DC charger is not enough, and that pressing that red button links them together, gives them a boot, and then it will start charge again. And when I say charging, it's charging directly off the alternator, and that's why we do this system. The alternator will put out 140 amps, and if these batteries are flat, they'll charge, half will go to the front, or probably 2/3 will go to the front, and the other third will go to the back battery. But these lithium batteries can take, charging continuous, I think it says 120 amps. So and the DCS 80 at the front is very thirsty. That can be charged at 250 amps. Not the alternator does that, but it's going to charge up lots faster than any BCDC, or unless you ran two of them. But I think this is a smart way to do it. While we're here, let's talk about some other things. So back in here, there's no less than 3 different apps. So we've got the Victron app, so we can see what's happening with solar. This is a great app. I'm not even going to see it there, but at a glimpse it will show you what's happening, and then you can go into it, and it says we're pulling all of 1.7 amps from the Victron 175 watt solar panel that we've got on the roof. Then we can go into the various DCS apps like that to see what the back battery is doing, for example. I've noticed that the DCS, a lot of these lithium batteries, the state of charge takes a while to learn itself. So even though that says, well, it's reporting 99%, which is probably accurate at the moment, but they don't look at the voltage more than the state of charge. And then around here, if you can see it, we've got a safe-free light switch. We're using the amber one at the back, and that is for over the tray here, so it's dimmable as well, so we can press and hold that, and that's going to be a nice little lighting. Imagine a beer there, watching all the bubbles go up through it, for the back of it. And we've mounted it here, so when the canopy comes off, there's still going to be light. So yeah, that's all dimmable by basically just pressing and holding, and that'll dim down, and then that'll dim back up, or we can turn it off. And then we've got another button here for the steady lights. So that's these ones across the top. And there's another app from Steady that you can use and have like disco modes and you name it. Steady. There we go. So you can change the colors, green, blue, red, whatever you want. Press disco modes. So you can modify the color up here. I want to have it on yellow, I think, or you can just turn it off by pressing that one, and then there's some other switches available for later on, but I reckon that's all come out pretty good. Charge box for cigarette lighter, USBs, Anderson plug there, an inverter of course. So I've gone for a 2000 watt inverter. If it was just this battery on its own, we could probably only do 1500 watt, because at the 120 amp discharge, times that by your nominal voltage of 12.8, and that equals about 1500 watt. But because we're linking these two batteries together, we can go up to a 2000 watt inverter. And yeah, this system's got more than enough power to pull that. Moving into the cabin now. Of course, we've got onboard air down here for managing the airbags, and on this particular car we put some extra USB points because you can never have enough USB points. The GME radio that can be disconnected if we need to, makes it all nice and clean. We can put that in the glove box when it's not in use. And we've utilised these Cogear dual switches because TILs run out of switch space, so we've got compressor. Oh, I need to go show you that, don't I? And then front locker underneath, and then over the other side here, whether you can see it, we've got light bar on the roof, and then light bar on the front bar. That's the long range tank there. We didn't do that one. All right, let's go have a look at that compressor, hey? All right, now under the tool, or in the toolbox under the tray, this is where all the compressor and everything's mounted. So got a twin compressor there. All the onboard air stuff's here. The ARB air control's up here, so we can connect the hose in here, connect it to the tyre, and then through the app, which I think the only problem with this, if you've got another car close, like mine's just over here, it wants to connect to my car because it's used to it on my phone. Anyway, so what you can do is set the pressure to air down, say 15 psi, or air up automatically, and just run the hose around to each place. And whilst we're here, so Shaun's going to be taking this on some pretty extended trips, so we've got there's a compressor going. We've got spare drive shafts, front, rear, all the boots that you could have front and rear, and we like the front inners to be the GSPs, everything else is genuine Nissan. Serpentine belt for a supercharger, make sure you take one of them with your sleeve. Spare air cleaners, spare fuses, oh, what else have we got? Spare oil filters, everything you need for that big trip if you're going, you know, across the middle of Australia. I'm sure I've forgotten a few things that we've done in this car, but like I said, this has been 2 months in the build process and at least 6 months in the design process, getting DMW to do the chop and suspension work, then us to carry on with the rest. I can see many good nights around a campfire where people just leaning up against this tabletop talking crap about their cars and who got up what sand dune and all that sort of thing. There's a lot of memories about to be made by this car, and it's been a pleasure working with Shaun, the owner, to get it to this level. Now it's time for him to take it back to Queensland and enjoy it. One last look around. So that's this build out and done until the next one. If you like me documenting these sort of builds that we do at DNA here, please feel free to put a comment below, and yeah, I'll keep doing it because that's what I do. I love these cars and I love YouTube. Yeah.